The Giant Spider Invasion is one of those movies where as soon as I watched it, I knew I had to make a video on it. Does it have a ridiculous plot? Yes. Does the giant spider look incredibly fake? Absolutely. But that's all part of what makes this movie perfect for this show. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about a low-budget B-movie from the 70s that actually turned out to be pretty successful, believe it or not. It's the 1975 cult classic, The Giant Spider Invasion. Now, a few months ago, I made a video on a movie called Monster A Go-Go. Now, that movie was directed by Bill Rebane, who also directed this movie. So let's get started by taking a look at the poster, which is actually one of my favorite things about this movie. I've always loved the old illustrated movie posters, and you just don't see this type of stuff that much anymore. And I think it's kind of a shame because this looks great. Anyways, the movie starts with something from space coming towards Earth. Then suddenly we're at the sheriff's office where Dave, who I guess is a reporter, is looking for a scoop.
Well, I guess there's nothing going on in this neck of woods except the revival over at Gleason Town Hall. You going?
No. Are you?
No. I got me a date with Terry.
Well, of course. I mean, how could she resist a man with such incredible taste and fashion? Just look at that shirt. It's got horses and cowboys. It basically paints an entire picture of life in the Wild West. That is a rare find. It's a piece of art, really. And how many pieces of art do you have hanging in your closet? Yeah. Anyways, the sheriff warns him not to get on the wrong side of Terry's brother-in-law, Dan Kester. And then suddenly we're at Dan Kester's house. And that's one thing I gotta give this movie some credit for, because it moves along at a breakneck pace in the beginning. It's just scene after scene after scene. It's almost disorienting in a way. And I always criticize movies on this show for being too slow, so I guess I gotta give this one some credit. In the beginning, it really moves along. Dan says he's going to the revival, and then he opens the door to his truck like, oh, that's where I put that chicken.
Sometimes the only way I know you're still alive is when I hear you flush the toilet.
So this preacher is now shouting about how the revival is gonna change everyone's lives. Dave arrives at the house to pick up Terry, and Ev is on the porch drinking.
You want a little drink? Sure you don't want one?
No, I'm sure.
Terry might be quite a while yet.
Okay, hang on a sec. Is that a cocktail or just straight booze? You know what, it's gotta be straight up booze because that's the only way it makes sense that she ended up with this guy. Seriously though, she is clearly a pretty heavy drinker. I think at that point, just get a dispenser, you know? Take a water cooler, empty the jug, and then just fill it with Crown Royal. Or just get a whiskey vending machine. I'm serious, apparently those existed back in the 60s. But just looking at this one, I can see why these were phased out eventually. Because, I mean, just look at this. By the time midnight rolls around, these instructions would be impossible to follow. But at the same time, maybe that's a good thing. It's kind of like a built-in way to cut people off, you know? Like if you're at the point where you can't operate this, you've had enough.
You know, it's too bad that there's this little age difference between us. If you were 5 years older, I'd jump you.
Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Well, hey, if I was in that situation, you know, I mean, things with Terry don't work out, at least, no. Danger. I'm telling you right now, that is not worth the boatload of problems that are bound to come with it. She is red flag city.
Dutch, this is Ev. Listen, there's not a drop of booze left in this house. I just can't stand it. I'm really desperate.
See, that's how you know someone has a serious problem. When they're out of alcohol, they're also out of breath. Dave takes Terry out somewhere to park the car and make out. Turns out that Dan wasn't at the revival. He was at a different type of establishment where he almost forgets his back brace as he's leaving. I'm sure that's going to be integral to the plot. Honestly, I don't know what's worse. The fact that he's cheating or the fact that he lied about going to the revival. However, I have to say, the revival doesn't seem all that fun. You know, he left during the day and it's nighttime now and the revival's still going on. So this preacher is just, what, screaming about fire and brimstone for how many hours? It just doesn't seem like a fun way to spend the night.
How was it?
Great.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am suddenly in the mood for some Frosted Flakes.
What does the preacher talk about?
Sin. He was against it.
Well, that would be quite the plot twist if he wasn't, now wouldn't it? However, I will say I'm all for that. Switch it up a bit. Why not? Just get up there and be like, all right, you know what, people? Add some sin into your life, just a bit, add some spice. Every now and then, don't do anything crazy. Don't murder anybody or anything like that, but, pick one. There's 7 of them. Sloth. Okay, sloth it up every now and then. So while Ev is calling him out on his bullshit, the thing from space crashes down and creates a huge distraction. Okay, this is one of the luckiest jerks I've ever seen. He's finally being confronted about his lying and cheating, and he gets provided with the greatest distraction of all time. I mean, how many times have you been in an awkward situation, or, you go to a party that you don't really want to go to, and, there's not many people there, so you can't really just kind of slide out without it being completely obvious to the host that you're leaving early. Imagine a meteor crashing into the backyard. That could get you out of anything. That's $1 million idea right there. A business that specializes in causing distractions to get people out of situations they don't really want to be in. So now everyone is like, holy crap, what is going on? Dave's car won't start, so he gets out and, oh my God, wait, is this where he took her on their first date? A junkyard? Honestly, I'm a little disappointed, Dave. I am. I actually feel misled because of the shirt. Anyways, the wind is really bad. So bad that it blows this guy off of his motorcycle, which for some reason explodes. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Dan says he's going to bed. He'll take a look at whatever crashed into the pasture in the morning, which I think is hilarious. Imagine something falling out of the sky onto your property. It crashes and creates an explosion or whatever the hell this is supposed to be. The wind starts blowing like crazy, and you're just like, yeah, I'll take a look in the morning. I've heard enough about fire and brimstone tonight. I don't need to actually see it. Meanwhile, at the U.S. Air Force, they are, I don't know exactly. This guy pushes a button, and now we just have a mess of footage and quick cuts until... I don't know what this is supposed to be. Are they trying to make it look like this switchboard or whatever it is exploded? Like they overlaid an explosion on top of it? Why would it explode? So in the middle of the night, Dan finds Terry sneaking into the kitchen. It's funny, he seems more concerned about what's going on in the kitchen than his own backyard. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever been more disgusted by a piece of clothing in my life. And just when you think it can't get any worse, the backside has a piece of material that at first glance makes you think this guy is having a Swass attack of such epic proportions, it puts you on the verge of puking your guts out. So as he's eating some fried chicken from the fridge, she tells him that it was actually her idea for Dave and her to go out to the junkyard.
I ought to put you over my knee, pull down your britches, and spank the hell out of you.
Oh, I always wondered why you used to spank me so much. So you could get your jollies.
Wait, so he's her brother-in-law? First of all, he used to spank her? When was that? And secondly, it doesn't seem like the type of thing that a brother-in-law should be doing under any circumstance. So now it's the next morning. You can tell because Ev is cracking open her breakfast beer. Then they go outside to the pasture and find a bunch of dead animals and a giant hole in the ground with all these spherical rocks around it. And Dan is like, holy crap, we gotta cut open these rocks. And you might be thinking, why? Why cut open the rocks? Well, because there might be things inside of the rocks. Like diamonds or money or rock milk. So after a while of using a hacksaw, he tries a chisel and the rock falls on the ground and cracks open, revealing a spider.
Hey, look. It split.
I love how he doesn't seem to notice the giant black and orange tarantula on the floor. So it looks like the rocks are filled with spiders and diamonds.
We're gonna be rich.
What do you mean, we? This farm is mine.
You know what? Just take the diamonds while he's sleeping, and then just burn the house to the ground with him inside. Seriously, that way you get rid of him, the long johns, and those cupboards all in one big swoop. I know it sounds extreme, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And the thing is, there's probably enough alcohol in that house that it wouldn't take very long either. You know, it would just go up in one big fireball, like poof, done. Wait, what am I saying? She'd never leave the alcohol in the house. Meanwhile, Dr. Vance from NASA has traveled into town to meet with Dr. Langer from the observatory. And she tells him there's all this crazy crap happening with gamma rays and radiation levels in the area, and it's like nothing they've ever seen before. Dan goes outside and finds the body of the guy who was driving the motorcycle that exploded, and this makes no sense. He's covered in blood and a white powder for some reason, and he's lying on top of a jacket and a skeleton hand. It seems like the movie is trying to make it look like it's his hand and he was killed by the giant spider, but why would the giant spider eat all of the flesh off of one of his hands? And when I say all of it, I mean all of it. Just look at this thing, it's completely clean. So instead of alerting the authorities, Dan decides to bury the body and cover it with some branches because he's scared that if he calls the police, they'll search his house and find the diamonds. So this is a much better idea. And this is hilarious because before, Ev was complaining about spiders crawling all over the house, and Dan was like, no, that's just you and you're drinking. Because, you know, alcohol causes hallucinations.
This place is full of spiders.
Yeah, I know. Little pink ones. Lay off the booze, Ev, and they'll go away.
And now that he's back inside the house, there are cobwebs all over the place and spiders walking all over the dishes. One of them walks into the blender, but because Ev doesn't look at anything she's doing, she doesn't notice and blends it into a cocktail. Now, I know you're probably sitting there saying, Mark, these aren't the giant spiders that we were promised, and this certainly isn't an invasion. And you're right. And I could do without the attitude, by the way. But as you're about to see in the next few minutes, this poster isn't lying completely. I mean, it is lying, but only to a certain degree. Dan goes to the W house. Look, I'm trying not to get demonetized here, folks. While Ev gets ready for bed, but she can't sleep, and damn it, she's all out of pills to mix with her bedtime whiskey. So she gets up and goes to the dresser, where I guess she keeps more pills, and suddenly this spider pops out. And the funny part about this isn't just that this is clearly a fake spider puppet being pushed out of the drawer. It's the fact that she screams, and then it sounds like the spider starts screaming. So she runs out of the room and right into another web. Then she runs outside and into the shed where she thinks she's safe until she sees this. Yes, and what is this? I'm genuinely curious as to what you think this is supposed to be. Here, take a good look at it. Is this scary to you? Do you know what you're supposed to be looking at? Because the first time I saw this, all I saw was 2 red balls on some wood. And I'm not trying to make a joke, that's honestly what I saw. And I was just confused, like, oh no, the balls. But apparently, it's a giant spider that swings down on top of her. The next morning, Dan leaves and gives his server one of the diamonds as a tip, and she's like, haha, yeah, that's great, but I kind of need actual money. Dan goes right to see cousin Billy at the rock shop to have the diamonds checked out, and Billy is like, yeah, these aren't real diamonds. So the doctors get a helicopter pilot to find the source of the radioactivity and take a picture of it. And they're like, holy crap, it's a space warp. A miniature black hole. So basically, there's a black hole on the farm that is a passageway to a parallel universe filled with, you know, giant spiders and little spiders inside of rocks, and finally we get to see one of these giant spiders. While Dan is out looking for more rocks, it sneaks up behind him and manages to eat him alive. Cousin Billy comes over and starts being a total dirtbag and hitting on Terry.
Well, if we're not blood kin, then let's be, kissing cousins, hmm?
Terry kicks him out, and on the ride home, he starts freaking out when he finds one of the spiders in his car. And what really pisses me off about this is the fact that he is now driving distracted. Something like this happens, you gotta pull over, because distracted driving kills. And that's a fact. You could hit another vehicle, a pedestrian, a giant spider that spun a web across the road so you get stuck in it and it starts stabbing you through the open windows, so you hit the gas, and even though it looks like the spider is lying upside down and motionless on top of the car, it's actually still stabbing you. And by the time you finally get away from it, you've forgotten about the regular sized spider inside of the car, so now that's distracting you, so you crash into a service station and it sets the car on fire, and the worst part is the service station also sells gas, so the whole place goes up and you die in a fiery blaze. You could also hit a cyclist or a fruit stand. So now the spiders are all over the house, and within a matter of minutes, they've covered the whole house in webs. But that's nothing, because now the giant spider is breaking through the windows. And that's just so much worse. Because, I mean, the cobwebs, you can just clean those. But the spider breaking windows? I don't think your homeowner's insurance is even going to cover that. Somehow the spider is able to put one of its legs through the wall, across the hallway, and take out the kitchen cupboards, which really doesn't make much sense, but then again, why am I even complaining? I said before, those cupboards were atrocious, so really the spider's actually doing them a favor with that one. So after destroying the house, the spider takes off. Meanwhile, the doctors are searching for the source of the radiation on the farm, when suddenly they run into the giant screaming spider. The doctors come up with the idea of just filling up the black hole with mass, just throw a bunch of neutrons at it. So they order up a neutron initiator with same-day delivery. See, that's the thing. Sometimes you're like, do I really need Prime? But it's the times like this, you know, you're really happy that you have it. I'm not sponsored by Amazon. Why am I giving them free? Amazon, pay me money. Suddenly, all of the townspeople just know about the spider and have already formed an angry mob with their guns to go out and kill it, which is a good thing because there's a fair going on. Spiders love those. And now the spider has gone too far. It's ruined the softball tournament, and now there's just mass chaos. People running, cars exploding from collisions. We don't have any answers as to the softball tournament. I mean, are they just going to delay the games and reschedule, or are they just going to cancel it completely? I don't think that's very fair to the teams that were doing well. So the townspeople are like, that's enough. We can't have this spider just waltzing around. So they charge at it. It's just too bad that a lot of them don't have much of a plan beyond that. So they just get their asses kicked. And I think that's the key lesson here. If you don't have a weapon of any kind, you might want to think ahead about what you're going to do once you run up to a monster you intend on fighting. I'll be honest with you, I still don't really understand what happens here. They drop the neutron initiator out of a helicopter into the black hole, and then they fire a flare. It sets the spider on fire backwards, and then it's all over, I guess, because the credits start rolling. Now, this movie had a budget of $300,000, and in 1996, Bill Rebane said it had grossed $15 million. According to Turner Classic Movies, that number is close to $22 million. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that the movie did surprisingly well. The script was written by Richard Huff and Robert Easton, the actor who played Dan in the movie, but apparently there were all these creative differences, and by the time they were supposed to begin filming, there really wasn't much of a script. So apparently that's when Bill Rebane locked Robert Easton in a cabin and told him to write 10 to 15 pages a day, otherwise he wouldn't feed him. Which sounds cruel and insane, because it totally is. But in the end, it resulted in a very successful B-movie, which would go on to become a cult classic. But that's pretty much it for this one. As usual, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time. Hi, I'm Derek from Derek's Discount Distractions Direct. Have you ever found yourself in an awkward situation where you wish you could just leave? Well, come on down to Derek's Discount Distractions Direct. We call it direct because I provide the distractions directly to you, because you're the one paying me the money. That's right, just send me a text and I will be there at some point. I mean, it kind of depends on what I'm doing that day, but usually it's around within an hour. I will be there to provide you with a perfectly good distraction. I'll show up at any kind of event, work parties, birthdays, funerals, any situation that you find yourself in where, you're bored, you're not really having a good time, and you want to leave, but you don't want people to notice that you're leaving because they might think less of you. I provide a wide variety of distractions, from pulling fire alarms, calling in bomb threats, showing up and yelling out, "Hey, there they are, get them!" And then I'll point, like in the opposite direction of where you are, so that people will look where I'm pointing. You get it? Setting off fireworks, performing a staged fight routine with myself, pretending like I'm going into labor. That will be really distracting because I am a man. And have you ever seen a man pretend like his water just broke? Well, yeah, it's distracting. Just simply screaming out obscenities, streaking, using an air horn. Not just like a regular air horn, this one's really big, really loud. It's enough that people will be like, "What?" Yeah. There are some other things that I can do that I can't mention in this commercial, so just call me and we'll chat. I'm Derek, that's my business, causing distractions so that you can leave stuff. And if you're wondering what my level of expertise is, well, just look at me, Look at this shirt. It doesn't look very good. It's pretty distracting. These shorts, pretty wrinkly. That's distracting. My hair's all over the place. See, this is why people are going to be looking at me and not you, so that you can make your escape, setting loose a pack of wild dogs. But don't worry, they're not rabid dogs. I checked. Like, their mouths aren't even foamy, like, at all. Well, come on down to Derek's Direct Distractions Discount. Wait, what? Well, come on down to what is it?